Next question from Arnold Viersen, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Bennett, for being here today. Appreciate the opportunity to ask you a few questions. I see in the estimates there that we've brought in a bunch of a lot more mental wellness teams that are being brought in. We're currently studying here, as you probably know, we're studying the suicide crisis or the state of suicide in Indigenous communities across the country. So it's probably something that I hope that you're following our study as well. I was just wondering if you could just talk about, I see you've increased the number of these mental wellness teams from 11 to 43. We've heard from different people that some of the professionals is difficult to come up with, even finding professionals to work on these committees. So I'm just wondering how is that going with finding people, and who are you finding?
It's a great question. As we met with the Attawapas, or the INAN youth on Monday morning, it's quite shocking to realize that this young man at 23 years old has been a mental health worker for 4 years with no training. And so when a crisis breaks, it's very hard if the people who are there in a community really don't have the training. So the reason why the 4 mental health teams will be able to move into a crisis area as fully trained organizations, and then we will endeavor to get the mental health capacity built up in each of the communities, and with the 2 specific for Attawapiskat because of what they're going through right now.
Okay, yeah, because I guess you're definitely leading in the direction that I was looking, because they said it's very difficult to find appropriate people to work on these teams even. They said, Chief Isidore Day said that often it takes years just to build up that trust to even have the effort, the ability to do anything. So are these teams being made up of local people? I guess that's kind of the question. Or is that an avenue you're looking at to some degree? Because he said often spiritual leaders are the people that are doing these jobs anyways, and often without, as you mentioned, often without the training. Are these the people that you're looking to perhaps give the training and to build the team around, say, 3 or 4 individuals from the local area?
There's a couple of things so these sort of the teams that are mobile, they'll be set in regions and then we'll go in during a crisis, but we are learning a lot as you say, in terms of how we build capacity, but also how there's sometimes the issues, and we heard it from the kids, and we heard it certainly when we've been in some of these remote communities, that trust in speaking to somebody locally is not there, that they're worried about confidentiality, they're worried about telling their stories, and so sometimes having somebody come from outside feels safer to people. And I've been very interested in looking at Peggy Shaughnessy's program, Red Path, where they go in, but then they stay in touch online, and are able to stay in touch with people that they've made that primary relationship with. So we're exploring all of these. Obviously, it's in Dr. Philpott's department. My job is to make sure these kids have hope and are getting what they know they need in language and culture and land-based programs and housing, water, the things that the kids are really worried about, and the recreation centers that weren't previously on the agenda.
How many members are on one of these teams generally? Do you know?
1 minute, please.
That's being negotiated, but I think the moving teams, I think, are 4 people, but I would sort it out. But I think we can get it's in the backgrounder to the press release that came from Dr. Philpott.
Where are these 43 teams? Where are they going to be located?
So those 43 teams are actually in communities that have been deemed as high risk. So there's the 4 moving teams, and then the 43 teams will be in ramping up. There will be
from 11 to
a priority setting in terms of the people who really have been struggling and need it most.
Yeah, so it's those 43 teams that I'm talking about. What's the composition looking like? Is that going to be like 2 or 3 local people giving training?
That will be determined the First Nation and what it looks like. But I think that that sometimes it's the great hockey coach or it's the great teacher or there are other people that we know in communities. We can build their mental health capacity so that they can do the most they can in terms of these kids, as opposed to being a health care problem. It's a creating health issue in terms of how we get these kids feeling good about themselves.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. Next question from Gary and